On Dafayin Talinum phase, we had the Shita before of Rabbi Yochanan that even though Mehayom im Mati or Mehayom uliachar Misa is a suffix according to the Chachamim because we don't know if he was Choser Bo or if it's just a Tanai. Rabbi Yochanan says, but in the case of Almanas, that's clearly Me'achshav. Vasanya will prove it from a Brisa. Me'ayom uliachar Misa get ve'ino get divrei Chachamim. Rabbi Omer kozeh get. And the machlokas between the Chachamim and Rebbe, where Rebbe holds that since he added the word Me'ayom, he definitely wants the get to be Chalam Afreya, therefore it's kosher. Whereas Chachamim raised the possibility that after the word Me'ayom, the addition of the words Liachar Misa indicates a Chazara, or the possibility of a Chazara, therefore it's a Safek. But from the fact that the Chachamim had to argue on Rebbe in this particular case of Me'ayom Liachar Misa, we're medayik that in the case of Almanas, the Chacham could see to Rebbe, and it's K'me'achshav Dami. So the Gemara now asks, what will Rabbi Yehuda respond to this raya? Rabbi Yehuda says that Diomar Almanas pligi, that there's machlokas not only in the case of Me'ayom L'achar Misa, but even in the case of Almanas. Ad mifligi b'Me'ayom L'achar Misa lifligi b'Almanas. And therefore, Rabbi Yehuda argues that why is it that the Brisa adds a machlokas or formulates machlokas dafka in the case of Me'ayom L'achar Misa? Why not argue even in the case of Almanas? Because according to Rabbi Yehuda, the same machlokas that applies in Me'ayom L'achar Misa applies even in the case of Almanas. And the Chachamim should have disagreed with Rebbe even in the case of Almanas. And the Gemara answers, Lo diacha kocha de Rebbe. We have a chiddush of Rebbe that's a vadai get kosher, and the chiddush is that even in the case of Me'ayom uliachar Misa, where the words liachar Misa as an addition seem to indicate Chazar, nevertheless Rebbe says it's a vadai get, and it goes without saying in the case of Almanas. The Gemara continues and asks, "V'liflagu b'almanas l'diacha kocha d'Rabbanon." Why not give me an extra chiddush that the Rabbanon hold is a suffix even in the case of Almanas? And according to Rabbi Yehuda, the machlokes between Rebbe and the Chacham applies even in the case of Almanas. And the Gemara answers, "Koch Tera Odif." The Tana prefers to teach us the chiddush of Rebbe, that Rebbe holds lekula, that it's a vadai get kosher even in the case of Me'ayom L'achar Misa. The Mishnah says that if he says, she has to deliver the money within that 30 days. Pshita. Obviously, if he said that the Tanai was within 30 days, she did not cough up the money within 30 days, the get is possible. Ma'al detema. If not for Mishnah, I would have said the Kpeda Lav Kpeda. His Kpeda is not really makpid, but Lazarza Kasi. What difference does it make to him whether he gets the money, this amount of money on day 30 or day 31? There's no difference. He only said 30 in order to be Mizari, so she'll come up with the money very quickly. And Kamashbal answer the Mishnah says, no, he intended B'dafka that the money should be passed on to him within 30 days. The Mishnah says, Omer Rab Shimon Gamliel, Maisa B'tzainon. So the Gemara tells the story about a man who gave a get, Almanasha Titnili, it's Talise, give me back my beged. The beged got destroyed, she couldn't fulfill the Tanai. And the Chachamim say that she could pay the worth of the it's Talise. Man Tana de Ketani Maisa. I don't get it. There doesn't seem to be any Tana over here that needs to bring a proof to this principle. So what's the Maisa B'Tzaydon? And the Gemara answers, there's something missing in the Mishnah. Im Omar La Al Menashe Titnili it's Talisi, Vi Ovda it's Taliso. It's Talisi Dafka Kamala. The Tanai was Dafka that she returned, and it's Talisa, not its value in Mammon. And that's the sheet of the Tanakh. Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer Titein Lo Estomea, and we're going to prove this with a Maisa B'Tzinon. The Amar of Shimon Gamliel Maisa Nami B'Tzayim. The Echad Shomer Lishta Reisei Kitei Chamanasha Titni Li It's Talisi. The Ovda It's Taliso. The Amar Chacham Titin Lo Estomeh. And now we start the main sugya that's going to introduce the whole issue of Nesina Bal Korcha. Boy Minei Rav Asi Mi Rav Yochanan. Hareze Gitei Chamanasha Titni Li Masayim Zuz. V'chosar v'amar la mechulin loch mahu. What happens in a case where he made a tanai? The get will only be chalf she forks over 200 zuz, and at the end he was mochala. Tiboy l'Rabbanon, tiboy l'Rab Shimon Gamliel. Tiboy l'Rabbanon, ad kan lo komer Rabbanon hasam. When did the Chachamim say in the Mishnah that if he was told a get in the sinas habeged, she has to give him the beged and not Mos, ela de lo achli gaba, when there was no mechila. Aval hachab here in this scenario, haka amala mechula. He doesn't need the Mos. He was mochel on the Mos. So the Tanai was mekuyim. O dilma, shall we say, afilu Reb Shimon Gamliel, who holds that in the case of its talise, she can pay its value to lo kamar ela de kama faise le b'dami. When did Reb Shimon Gamliel machshir the get? He said because she paid him up the money of a. But if she doesn't pay any money at all in the case of mechila lo, Rabbi Yochanan responded to Rabbi Asi that in this case mechila is not considered as if he got the money. The Tanai was never fulfilled, and the get is not a get. Eisvei, I'm going to prove to you from a mission in Durham Samach Gimel that in fact when you pay up something and he's mochel you and he says, ki'ilu is kabalti, it's as if you already paid me up, it's valid. I don't want you to have any anah from me. Any benefit should be like a korban. So the Tanai was that he would receive on behalf of his son this amount of Rabbi Meir Omer Asar Yitain. The hana of Mudra Hana Bichal until the Tanai is fulfilled and he pays up the chitin and the yain to his son. He, the madir, could be matir the neder without a chacham. How? Omer, he declares, Hareni kilu kabalti. So you see clearly that mechila is kilu kabalti. And that's against Rabbi Yochanan, who says the mechila is not like a kabbalah. And the Gemara answers, Hachi hashta hasam. In the case of Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi get l'tziuri kamachame. He wanted mitzayir her, he's divorcing her. And he wanted her to lose the most. And therefore, if at the end of the day, she did not suffer that tsar, lo tzira, is therefore, there was no kiyama tanai, and the get is batal. But hacha, here in the case of Madir's Chavero Hana, is Mishum Arvacha, he wants to gain that money, or its value in Chitin and Yayin, but now his son, Baruch Hashem, became very wealthy, and he doesn't need this gift, and therefore, Rabbi Yochanan could explain that Mishnah, and you could be matir the ned. This is a very profound sugya. It's really not for Daf Yomi, but we'll do the best we can. A man says to his oris, Kuli alma dolu tlas dalvos of Yachli River. The standard price and payment of wages for an oris is that during the course of an annuum, he does hashkas asota 3 times, and he gets 25% of the profits. However, I want to make a separate deal with you. At doli arbava chol tilsa. I want you to do a fourth, an extra hashkas hasoda during the course of the year, and you can jack up your wages, and you will receive 33% of the profits of the field. V'sof asa mitra. However, at the end, there was no need for a fourth hashkah because it rained. Rabbi Yosef Holodola. He made a tanai with him that you do 4 hashkos and you can get a shlish, but he never did 4 hashkos. But Rabbi Amar lo itzter. Rabbi says that all the Balabais was interested in setting up this condition was that the field have 4 hashkos, and the field had 4 hashkos. So his commitment to pay the oris 1/3 of the profits is still binding. Lema Rav Yosef Domakar Bonan for Rabba Diomakar of Shimon ben Gamliel. Okay, this is a very difficult sugya, and the Nesivus goes bonkers over the sugya. But let's just understand the sugya on a superficial level. The Rabbanan held that if she cannot give back the beged and fulfill the Tanai, Dmei HaBeged is not sufficient. Therefore, in the case of an Oris, we accept the Shita of Rav Yosef, that when the Baal Bais made the Tanai, that he do 4 hashkos, and then he'll get a third. Well, there's no Kiyama Tanai. Okay, the rains came down, he got lucky, but he didn't do 4 hashkos. And that reflects the Shita Rabbanan, who says that we take the Tanai literally, and the Tanai was that she returned the beged. Rabba Omar Rav Shimon Gamliel. Rabba, on the other hand, accepts the Shita of Shimon Gamliel that if there's no beged, it got lost, she pays the Dmei HaBeged, and the Kiyum HaTanai is valid, and so too in an Oris. Since Yardu Akshamim, and now there's no need for a 4th hashkah, therefore it's as if there was hashkah and there was a Kiyum HaTanai, V'tizbara, and the Gemara rejects it, Kaimalon. You can't accept both. Why? We pass in Ilchasa Kavase de Rabba. Whenever there's machlokas between Rabba and Rav Yosef, the principle is that we pass like Rabba against Rav Yosef. But there are 3 exceptions. And those 3 exceptions are Sugis and Shas, Soda, Inyan, and Mechta. So therefore, we have to paskin in this machlokas like Rabba. And that means that the Oris, according to Rabba, just 1 second, sorry. The Oris has rights to 1/3, despite the fact that there was no physical ashkah because of the rains. But on the other hand, the machlokas regarding paying money in place of the beged ain't halach Rav Shimon Gamliel. The Gemara later on in Daf Ayin Hey is going to prove that this is one of the few exceptions to the rule where we don't paskin like Rav Shimon Gamliel, but Sidon, right? And therefore, the halacha is that there's no Kiyum HaTanai. But Rabba says that there's a Kiyum HaTanai, even though he didn't do a 4th hashkah. So you see, it's not Hava Atalia El Elion Kirabana. We have to assume that both Rabba and Rav Yosef agreed to the Rabbana. And that means that he cannot accept payment in place of the beged and be machshir to get his puzzle. And Rav Yosef, we understand very well, who says that he didn't do the 4th hashkah, therefore there's no Kiyum HaTanai Kirabana. And Rabba Amalcha, Anodi Ami Afilu Kirabana. I can square off even with the Rabbanan, and even though I say that the Oris takes a full 1/3 of the produce of the field, I can still accept the Rabbanan Shita that payment in place of the beged is not a Kiyum HaTanai. Ad kan lo kam Rabbanan also, when the Rabbanan say that payment for the beged is not a Kiyum HaTanai, Ella Dilitziri Kamachavin in the case of a get, and he wants the beged itself. He doesn't want money. But here in the case of Hashkas Revius is Mishum Arvachu. His whole motivation is to make sure the field has 4 Hashkos for Holo Itzrich. He doesn't need an extra Hashkos. Now, before we get to Tanan Haso, which is this major sugya of Nesina Bal Korcha, let's just make sure that we understand that when a person sells a field in an Ira Mukefes Choma, Mimos Yeshua Ben Nun, he has a full year to be Gol L'Sada, and he can pay back the Kona and return his money, and then as a result, the field is redeemed and it goes back to the Mocher. But what did people do? Very often the Lokeach, he doesn't want to give back the Karka, the Sada, so he would hide himself. Tanan, so we have a Mishnah in Erechim. Barishona hoya nitman. Yom shnei basar chodesh kadei sheyacholot lo. What was the trick of the Lokeach? What he would do is he'd hide himself up on the last day of the 12-month period of time, and therefore the Sada would be cholet lo. There would be no possibility for the Mocher to be Gol Sada. Hiskin hil hazaken shecholesh esmaosav lalishka. They allowed the Mocher to give the most that he wants to return to the Lokeach in the Lishka, which was a separate office that was designated for this. He could break down the house and take over the field. And let the Lokeach have the most there in the Lishka, and he'll pick up the most whenever he gets around to it. The Omar Rava mitakanoso shel Hillel nishma. What can we derive from the fact that Hillel made this takana that the money could be placed in the lishka against the will of the lokeach, and therefore the mocher could be golas bayis, we should derive the conclusion from that Mishnah that a reza gitech al menashe titni the masayim zuz v'noslo midaito megureshes, but al korcho ena megureshes the itzrich le hillel litkune nesina bal korcho dahavi le kinesina. The chiddush of Hillel through its takana was that when the mocher against the will of the lokeach gives back the money, that's called a nesina, and his goal is sudden. Obviously, if Hillel needed to come on to this new takana, it means that nesina bal karcha lav nesina choshev. And therefore, if a man says to his wife, take this get, and the condition is that you'll pay me masayim zuz, then if he accepts the masayim zuz willingly, then the get is chal l'tanai was mekuyah. But if she throws the masayim zuz into his lap against his will, then it's not considered a nesina. And therefore, the get is not chal.